Okay, develop an engaging idea. So I'm going to help you develop an idea for your writing. You're going to write a personal narrative, like the one we're going to read about in this Nearpod. Develop an engaging idea. Writers retell an interesting or memorable experience in a personal narrative. So, something interesting, something memorable. This is something in his personal narrative because it's something that only you can tell. It's a story that only you can tell. They use relevant details or details closely related to the story to focus on their ideas. These ideas allow readers to share in their writing experience and understand the writer's thoughts and feelings. So now let's look at this. It says, think about stories you have read with engaging ideas. So think for a moment. Use the chart to list relevant details that develop engaging ideas. What makes the idea interesting? So, let's think of an interesting story or think of a well-known story like Harry Potter. Harry Potter. What do you think makes Harry Potter, the story of Harry Potter, interesting? Or think of another story and write it here. What makes that story interesting? What does the sketch that, rewind. We have to think about a personal narrative. So let me go to the personal narrative that we are going to use. Oh, I have that slide twice. I'm sorry. The lost homework. One sunny afternoon, I rushed home from school and tossed my backpack on the floor. When I opened it later, my math homework was gone. My stomach dropped. Tomorrow we had to turn it in. That sounds like some of y'all. And I knew my teacher would ask, where is it? I mean, where it was. I searched everywhere, the kitchen and table, under my bed, even inside the couch cushions. No homework. I felt worried and thought, what if I get in trouble? Oh no, let's see what happens. Then I remembered I had been doing my homework in the backyard. I ran outside, and there it was. My paper stuck under the picnic table. Fluttering in the wind, I grabbed it. A little crumbled, but safe. That night, I finished the last few problems, stuck the paper carefully into my folder, and zipped my backpack. The next morning, I proudly handed in my homework, and I learned an important lesson. Always double check your backpack. So that is a personal narrative that someone wrote. So now let's come to, some of these slides are twice, we'll skip a bit. So what I want you to think about that story. What makes that story interesting? What does the author see? What does the author hear, if anything? How does the author feel? Now I want you to think about different words that was used. Or if you are at home, go back to the website, click on the near pause so you can really take a look at that story and tell me, how does the author feel? What does the author taste or smell, if anything? What does the author do? Use the questions to develop and focus engaging ideas with relevant details on your own personal narrative. This is something you do not have to turn in, but on a scratch piece of paper, think about this something that you would like to write about and think about these different relevant details. All right, this is the slide that we have like a billion times. Narrators tell about an event with their actions, words, thoughts, and feelings. So think about that story. What words, what actions, what thoughts, and what feelings did that narrator have? Oh, by the way, guys, if you don't remember what a narrator is the person that is telling the story. Okay? A narrator can help authors focus their writing by providing readers with relevant details. We talked in great deal last week about the details. These details allow the reader to connect the narrator's experiences. Read the following passages and then complete the chart by listening relevant details that tell about the narrator. So let's do this together. I had butterflies in my stomach. So when someone has butterflies in their stomach, think, what does that mean? Maybe if you're at home, ask a family member. If you're here, you're at a level one, but you can still whisper to your neighbor, what does butterflies in my stomach mean? When I walked into my new school, so they walked into their new school. If you don't know what butterflies in their stomach means, how do you feel when you walk into a new school? And that can help you understand what the narrator means. I thought of my friends and how we played on the beach. We swam, we collect seashells. Now I felt homesick. All eyes were on my flowery skirt and long black ponytail. I wanted to run, but I squeaked out, hello? All right, so now let's think about this. How does the narrator look? So we know the narrator must look nervous, but what the narrator has on is a flowery skirt and she has a long black ponytail. Now, it says she squeaked out hello, so she probably looks nervous. Narrator thinks and feels. So, right here, it says, I thought of my friends and how we played on the beach. We swam, we collected seeds. Now I felt homesick. Okay. So she was thinking of her friends and it made her feel homesick. So here, narrator likes to do. What does the narrator like to do? Well, it says she likes to play on the beach with her friends. Okay. Edit one of your own drafts of your personal narrative. Focus on your writing to include relevant details that develop engaging ideas. So, once again, we're working on writing a narrative, our own narrative, personal narrative. Please, guys, we're only writing one. So even though it keeps telling you to write one, just know that all of these different worksheets are going to help us develop one personal narrative. That's the same thing. Resolution. So when we think about a story, we know that a story has a problem and then it has a resolution. Now, somehow, where's our problem? Ah, so we can't get to our resolution before our problem. That's out of whack. And we should probably talk about our setting. I think my paper is out of sorts. Yes, the setting is next. So, relevant details help writers structure their writing so readers can picture in their minds the setting or where and when the event happens. So remember, when we see that word or, that gives us a definition. The setting is where and when an event happens. To develop a setting in an engaging way, writers use drafts such as relevant sensory details. Everyone say sensory details. Sensory is we're talking about our five senses, what we see, what we smell, what we taste, and what we hear. I heard the dinner bell and the smell of my mother's cooking made my mouth water. I can almost taste the smorgasbord of delicious, scrumptious biscuits that she had on the table. And when I went into the kitchen, I saw the most beautiful spread of food. All of those words that Miss Clark just used helps you visualize the setting. Okay? So, to develop the setting in an engaging way, writers use crafts such as relevant sensory details, like I just did, to help readers experience the way things look, sound, smell, taste, or feel. Read the passage, then complete the chart. Last year, on a sunny day, my family and I took a hike at Stone Park. We're talking about the setting. We followed the maze trail that wound through the dense forest. Birds whistled overhead, then boom! A loud crack quickly followed. I looked at my map and spotted shelter nearby. Raindrops as big as eggs fell on my head. As we ran. Safe inside, we watched giant raindrops splash outside and breathed in the sweet smell of wet earth. Details about the time. The time is the day, a sunny day. Details about the place. Says they're hiking at Stone Park. Relevant sensory details. They talked about they breathed in the sweet smells of wet earth. As you compose your personal narrative, use craft to add relevant sensory details to help structure your writing and uh, develop an engaging setting. So as you're writing, just like Miss Clark just did off the top of her head, when you're talking about something that happened, I want you to use those sensory. I can almost taste the rain, or I can see and I can almost feel the sun on my face because we're going to the beach. Think about the five senses in your writing. Okay, now we move on to the problem. One of the most important genre, when we talk about genre means what? The type of story. And this week, we are actually talking about informational text. So that is the genre we're talking about this week. But let's get back to our writing. The most important genre characteristic of personal narrative is the problem. What's the problem? So, just like in the other story we read, the problem was the boy or the girl couldn't find their homework, or the conflict that must be resolved. They must resolve that conflict. The sequence of events, or the order in which events leading up to the conflict happen. So we're talking about, and I gave you three words today in class: sequence, time order, and chronological. These all talking about time order and the order in which things happen. Okay, something had to happen first, second, and third. We also talked about guiding words that let us know that that type of relationship is happening, like first, next, then, and last. All right. Narrators share a problem they have had and write details to describe why the problem is meaningful. Read a personal narrative from your classroom library. I want you guys, if you are here, if you need to, click on that Nearpod on our classroom site and then look at that personal narrative as many times as you need. Remember, you can have tabs open, maybe not as many tabs as Ms. Clark has on her screen, but you can have tabs open to go back and flip back and forth through. Look at the genre characteristics of the problem or conflict as you read, then complete the chart. What is the problem the narrator faces in that story? What are the details about that problem? And why is the problem meaningful? And here is that personal narrative. You could pause if you want. All right, so now we're going to go to the resolution. So the resolution if you think about it, is when the problem is resolved. Think of resolution, resolved. How was the problem fixed? Okay. The resolution brings the narrative to a satisfactory ending. It may tell how the problem is solved and how the narrator changed because of the experience. A strong ending ties a personal narrative together. A strong ending might be a surprise, a summary, a reflection, a question, or a lesson learned. Original ending. We lost the game and I went home. Here's a stronger ending. Remember, tying stuff together. We lost the game, but the courage I learned from my teammates was the most important, well, was more important than winning. Sorry, guys, it's the end of the day. Getting tongue-tied here. Okay, write a resolution from this personal narrative. Then share it with members of your writing club or your groups when you get to the writing center. And because we have testing this week, we might not get to writing until next week. But in your writing center, remember you're at a level 1. Follow agreed upon rules for discussion, including talking politely with others. So think about what can help you guys work together as a group so that you can share these things. Okay. As I washed the dishes, I stared out the kitchen window. I saw something out of the corner of my eye. I turned off the sink faucet and looked more closely. There, I saw it again. My neighbor's new puppy had escaped and ran across our backyard. I raced to the door, hoping I would not be too late to catch it. Here, doggy, 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 I croaked. Now, it says write a resolution for this personal narrative. So, what is going to be the resolution? You guys come up with it or come up with it at home and discuss it once you get to the class in your groups. In one of your own drafts, edit your resolution to make it stronger. Okay, guys, that's it. That's your homework. Remember that you can do this in your center in the soft chair table. And parents, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me.